we were either already done or they were too earnest, too rah-rah, or too woo-woo. It's like, I just, I want a place that recognizes me as a woman who I have lots of friends and I still laugh and drink a lot and maybe too much. I'm still inside the same person. I have the same kind of interests and desires and so forth. And so I started the magazine with that attitude, and I got some really great writers from my own writing background, from New York Times, all the women's magazines, travel magazine. People used to say, you'll never be able to make money from a digital magazine. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to figure it out. I know I can. But guess what? I couldn't.
Yep.
You can't make money as a digital publication. So, but what I realized at some point, we had started offering trips as like a side thing.
Just because it was, again, fun.
It was fun.
Good idea.
I took some people to my favorite beach in Mexico. They loved it. Then I took people to Charleston, South Carolina, where I have roots and a lot of experience. They love that. So I started adding a few trips a little along the way. Probably it was like 3 years ago that I really came to understand I can be a sustainable business as a travel company. And so we moved the ship. We were a magazine that offered cool trips. Now we're a travel company that has a cool magazine.
That's a cool magazine.
We still write articles. Most of them now are devoted to travel and that kind of wanderlust and those kind of things, or more practical things about traveling at this age. One other thing that we have, you were talking about community, your community of ageless traveler. We have a community of Next Tribe. We have memberships and we have small groups in different cities. So people, even because we recognize that not everybody can travel and bond that way that they do when they're on a trip. But if you have a local group where you've got similar, like-minded women, you can create that same kind of bond, that same kind of experience in your local community. So that's growing as well.
I'd like to stay with that for a moment because I have been fascinated by how you've been able to have and perhaps train and mentor. I think mentor is a better word. People in different locations, women in different locations, to take leadership in their community. And that to me is also part of Next Tribe.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, this isn't so easy to wrangle a person who is so proactive and such a self-starter that they take on their community, bring people together. I have been studying for many years something called positive deviance. Positive deviance started at Tufts University in southern Vietnam with a couple of researchers who were supposed to try to help children that were underfed. And they had absolutely no budget. And they actually went to Vietnam, and what they discovered was some of the children were fed well, did have nutrition. So instead of looking at those who did not, they took the leaders, the mothers, we talk about mothers, who knew how to take some of the most primitive foods from the water, little shrimps, and feed their children that, because it's high protein food. Keep in one home children thriving, when in the home next door children were starving.
Wow.
And they took those mothers and they had them be the educators. They educated, and not one of those villages had a nutritional problem.
Wow. That's a great story. Wow.
It is the greatest story on earth, and it's called Positive Deviance, and they brought all of these know-how to the U.S. and to Pakistan and many places, and I'm a big, big fan of Positive Deviance. And when I looked at Next Tribe, that's what came to my mind. I know
the deviant in me. Is that what it
Yes. Oh, yes. The positive deviant in you. Absolutely. And not only that, the positive deviant in all the women in the locations that are willing to take on the idea that they will take this leadership, because most people are not interested in that. They want it handed to them. My listeners, everybody listening right now, you're all a positive deviant. A positive one, because otherwise you're not listening to a show about traveling at any age, right?
Exactly.
You're unique. Not necessarily a unicorn, not only necessarily just one, but pretty unique. So how do you support the women that take on that leadership for Next Tribe?
Well,
how do you need them to mentor them?
First of all, we choose people because a lot of them can become apparent to us as we're traveling. We meet them on these trips and we see them kind of as women who, not that they want to be in charge, but they have great ideas, they have great enthusiasm, and they really understand what Next Tribe is and the potential. I mean, that we see that. And so we just ask women.
So it's an invitation. You submit an invitation. Okay.
We submit an invitation. And I mean, every once in a while we'll put out in our newsletters, who'd be interested in something like this. And we have somebody on staff who's sold. She started the Austin group, so she still basically runs the Austin group. Marcelina Campa is her name, and so her role now is to help women get started in other
locations.
And that means she can help them with ideas for what to do. And it's not that hard from my perspective, because it's more like sending, we have members in all these cities, and just sending out a note saying, we're gathering for coffee. Who wants to come? Let's go gather coffee. We also have WhatsApp. We have groups in WhatsApp so that, people can just
communicate. Yeah,
people can. And so maybe it's not an event that's generated by somebody who's in that leadership position. Maybe it's somebody who's just, I have tickets to this concert. Who wants to go with me? And it's more informal, but it's just a way to keep in touch with these like-minded women. And I think it's really important to say that these are, and going back to what I said at the beginning, these are women who think, I'm not done yet. I have a positive feeling about being this age. I have some creaks and pains, but I'm not going to wallow in that. I'm going to look for what is good about being this age. So if you can get those kind of women together, they feed on each other, and it can create a whole different sense of what it is to get older. And
of course, for me, I have many friends, and I'm very fortunate to have friends who are in their 30s and friends that are in their 80s. I just met a woman. We became good friends. I didn't know how old she was. Turned out she was 91.
Oh,
so I call this all the fungible generation. You don't know who's who.
Yeah.
Right. And I always ask, if you didn't know how old you were, how old would you be?
Yes.
So, and it's just a wonderful new time of life, and it is a new perspective. And it is a new way of traveling, too, because my particular group have been to many places. They don't need to know what to see in Paris.
Yeah.
They can tell you what to see in Paris. So, my listeners are interested in what is unique, what's exotic, what they haven't been able to afford to do. And now, of course, we show them and teach them with our books like Luxury Travel for Less, and by introducing them to people like you, like Next Trip. So I thank you so much. Before we go, what is your next trip? What's next trip planned?
I'm leaving tomorrow for Ireland.
On your own on that, or is that a group trip?
It's a group trip. Yeah, we have a group trip. A sold out trip, and then I have some time in Scotland, and then we have a group coming into Scotland. So those are the two trips coming up. But then we have Colombia, we have Iceland, we have Portugal, coming up, and even some domestic trips. We do have domestic trips because we know shorter trips, because we know that some people can't make a big commitment like that, or they don't want to. So we have like we go to Colorado and do all this like summer camp for grown women, like doing all kinds of fun things. And then we have a trip to Seattle, went to Santa Fe. So we do some local trips. But again, we are introducing you to interesting women in these cities. And one of my favorite things is to get into the homes of people in different cities, because I think we all like to see people live.
I call it real estate porn, but don't say I said so. And for everybody else, we are going to be doing in June a couple of different live streaming seminars. One of them is going to be how we at the Agents Travel support you if you go on trips anywhere in the world with Next Tribe or anyone else, because we have such a great advisory board that helps people that are concerned about their mobility, or they don't have a companion to go with, and they're worried about solo travel or even solo group travel.